Wow, Brian. 2 episodes in a week. Isn't that
Fir-
crazy?
First time ever. It's the
First
first for
time
everything.
ever. Hey, we gotta work hard and make sure that we have 2 episodes in a week. This is Cut the Nets, episode 18. Obviously, we're gonna talk about the playoffs. I'm Jeremy. This is Brian. This is Brian. Okay, just letting y'all know, making sure. We will be talking about the Warriors and Kings, obviously, Draymond being Draymond, him being suspended for game 3, and as well as Sabonis having a sternum contusion, questionable for game 3 as well. Hawks and Celtics game 2. Hawks went to a hot start in the first quarter, but faltered. The Celtics eventually went on to win convincingly. The Sixers and Nets, kind of the same formula. The Suns Clippers. Suns offense caught fire in the second half and tied the series. So yeah, this is Cut the Nets, episode 18.
Morant. Oh! A jawbreaker! Goes by Bullock. Oh! Drops the sledgehammer! Good bucket. Kobe Bryant on a rack attack. A piece of it. Wade. Wade going right. Giannis Antetokounmpo over Chris Middleton. It's a physical game. Oh, me, oh, my. Vicious slam in the face of Kawhi Leonard. Explosion, the finish. Down to 3, down to 2, it's a 3. Good! Good! He got it! James Harden, a flamethrower! This guy's unbelievable. He is so fun to watch.
So we've got Matt Strout on the podcast. Welcome, Matt. Happy to have you.
Thanks for having
Matt.
me, guys. Thanks for making my debut here on Cut the Nets.
Awesome. We're happy to have you. He's a BSP writer, of course. Matt Strout, what do you cover?
Right now, I'm covering mostly the Celtics. I come from New England, so Celtics are usually my domain here. But I've been kind of bouncing around a lot around the NBA, doing a lot of covering a lot of different teams. My most recent article actually was about the whole charge conundrum going on in the NBA right now. So I tackled that, the whole restricted area, really in response to what happened to Giannis and Ja over the weekend.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Celtics are my team.
Speaking of Celtics, they had game 2 against the Hawks. Let's go ahead and pull up the box score on that. This game pretty much was interesting in the first quarter. The Hawks had a really hot start. They had this sort of energy that was kind of reminiscent of the game against the Heat in the play-in tournament. But the Hawks, throughout all 4 quarters, kept that same energy all throughout. And they lost steam pretty much after the first quarter, and the Celtics kind of held on to win. If I'm looking at the box score right now, Trae Young, wow. Minus 18 for the plus-minus. I'm a big plus-minus guy. And for your starting point guard, franchise player, to have minus 18 despite 24 points on 9 of 22 shooting, around 40% from the field, not too great at the three-point line, 2 for 8 from 3, kind of equivalent to the bench. This is not really the best type of box score you want to have for your team to secure a win.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, the biggest issue right now for the Hawks, and it's sad because you just mentioned Trae Young and being the star point guard. Their Hawks have played better in this series when Trae Young has been either on the bench or has taken a not even a backseat role, but like a in the trailer role. Like when they are playing with Murray yesterday, I thought was actually really good. He seemed like really aggressive and was finding his shot pretty easily. But he was doing that with guys like Bogdanovic. Helped space them, and I think is also giving them a nice little energy push. But all the effective runs that they've gone on in game 1, it was in game 3, and here at the beginning of the game, it's not like Trae was doing much. It was the others. It was DeJounte Murray, and then when they've been able to kind of put pressure on the Celtics, it's been with him on the bench, which is that's not the greatest problem, or the biggest problem to have is when you're playing better with your best player off the court.
Look at Clint Capella. Brian, with Clint Capella playing only 22 minutes, shooting 2 of 4 from the field with a -5 and just barely a block and 2 steals and 4 points. Like, what does that say about your starting center, who's like a really great pick and roll guy and who's a rim protector? Like, what does that say about the Hawks organization with their rim protector?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good point. Only taking 4 shots, making 2. I think that's not necessarily on Capella. I mean, he's being guarded by Robert Williams, who's one of the best paint interior defenders in the league, and he's been doing a great job at shutting down Capella. And if you look, his backup, Onyeka Okongwu, has 5 shots, so still not that much, but just 3 more. And I think like with this series, we didn't expect it to be close. The Hawks, they kind of aren't like Boston is just the far more superior team. And we go back to Trae Young's plus minus to minus 18. It's because he's at like just like I think like 6 foot or 6'1", and he's not the best defender. So that's kind of the issue with Trae Young, and this Hawks team. I think the Hawks offense would be better if they could incorporate Clint Capella in the pick and roll. They did that so well in 2021 when they got to the Eastern Conference Finals just 2 years ago.
Let's move on to the Celtics box score. Pretty much a night and day when it comes to the Hawks box score. You've got Jason Tatum having a pretty decent game. I mean, 12 for 22 from the field, 29 points, double-double with 10 rebounds. Al Horford, plus 20 in 32 minutes, barely taking any shots. I mean, 3 blocks for a 36-year-old, that's pretty good. That's pretty good for Al Horford. I mean, he's an underrated defender. I mean, Brian, you mentioned it in the last week's podcast or last episode's podcast that Al Horford is a sneaky defender, honestly, especially at the 4 and 5. And people kind of think, he's just a stretch big, but he's got some defensive prowess that he's been holding for, pretty much his entire career, especially on his former team, the Atlanta Hawks. Derek White, who was kind of the saving grace for this team. I saw like a bits and pieces of his post-game interview, and he went 11 for 16 and really shined as one of the high-scoring role players of the Boston Celtics. Plus 20 from Malcolm Brogdon. I mean, that's great too. Honestly, what do you guys think of this series? I mean, I can see the Hawks having that same energy.
I think it's either going to be a sweep or it's going Celtics in 5. They're just the far better team. I think the Hawks have too many distractions going on with the rumors that management would even trade Trae. But I think the Celtics, obviously their starters balled out, but you also got to shout out Malcolm Brogdon. He had a 13-8 game off the bench. He's also a good defender, resulting in that plus 20. And the Celtics were in the finals last year, and then they improved their roster somehow even more by getting Brogdon. He's really a key bench piece for this Celtics team. And he basically, even off the bench, does the recognition role of a starter.
Yeah, and I'll be short. I mean, the only way the Celtics, there's no way they, hopefully this doesn't come back to haunt me, but I don't think there's any way they lose this series. The only way they really drop a game or potentially, games get close is if they beat themselves. I mean, the issues for them this season have been when they've gotten bored or when they've done self-inflicted stuff like turnovers and just not play fast. So as long as they stick to that, they're this will be done in 4 or 5 games. So
let's move on to the next series. We've got 76ers and Nets, game 2. Again, kind of the same formula. You had the Nets probably have a stronger first quarter, second quarter, first half this go around compared to Atlanta versus the Celtics. And that was all due to Cam Johnson. I mean, he did such a good job in the first half, but then I kind of see that they lost a little bit of steam in the second half. You kind of see out based on their plus minuses, like the first 3 players, Dorian Finney-Smith, who's usually a really good defender, Mikal Bridges as well, and Cam Johnson, all negative 17. I might also ask that Cam Johnson, he had 28 points. I think he had 20 of those points in the first half, so not much of a performance in the second half for Johnson. I think he was locked down a lot more. I think Doc Rivers had to coaching adjustment and to make sure that they lost their momentum in the second half, which kind of led the Sixers to win this gutsy defensive game. I mean, the Brooklyn Nets only scored 84 points. I think it was like, what, 68-63 heading into the fourth quarter, I believe, which is not very often this happens nowadays.
I think the only thing I would say about the Nets is that, I think, for a team that is only playing 8 players in the playoffs, I don't really think that that's like explainable. I mean, it's not like they have this tight, they shouldn't have a tight rotation. They should be trying things at least. Throw in Cam Thomas in there for a little bit. Throw in Watanabe just as a different wing defender. You shouldn't just be playing 8 people. It doesn't make any sense to me why Vaughn isn't extending the rotation just a little bit. Not to say that they have any chance against the Sixers, but it's more of just why aren't you expanding the rotation? Just throw something else out there. It might happen in this game, so I might be overstepping, but it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. Cam Thomas was looking good and a great way to close the season. Even before they got Bridges and Johnson, Cam Thomas was looking good. You also got Watanabe, who's a great 3-point shooter. And then even if because Nick Claxton was getting beat around, let up 19 rebounds to Joel Embiid, you could throw in Deron Sharp, who's more of a physical type of defender. They also got Patty Mills, who's a veteran guard. If a guy like Spencer Dinwiddie, who's shooting 5 for 14, struggling for the field, you can go to Patty Mills, who's a solid veteran with championship experience on that Spurs team.
Dude, yeah, Joe Harris was also the best defender.
He was the only person on the
that.
team with a positive plus minus of plus 19.
Yeah.
But I mean, one thing I will give the Nets credit for is, despite Joel Embiid having the 19 rebounds, he didn't necessarily go off like a 30-point game. He only had 20 points, but they also did a great job at containing Harden. He was held to single digits. But then with that, Tyrese Maxey had 33 points. Tobias Harris had 20 points. What really gave this under 100 defensive-minded game in the Sixers' favor was the 76ers completely out-rebounded the Nets, 56-33, with 13 offensive rebounds. That's really what's going to do it for you.
Yeah. Also, I agree with Matt's point on having Jock just consider playing, all the other players, especially the ones that had DNPs. I mean, the Nets don't really have a playoff future right now. They just got enough wins because of Kyrie and KD. Even with their chemistry and with the off-court issues with Kyrie and that whole debacle in the front office, they were still a playoff team. And they held their own with Jacques Vaughn being able to coach these newly acquired guys from those trades. So I think they should really focus for the future, as well as kind of trust the process, like the Sixers have. Speaking of the Sixers, let's move on to their box score. Again, a defensive-minded game. I mean, Tyrese Maxey was probably the only player that wasn't heavily guarded as much because they were focusing on Embiid for the most part. If he can't play offense, if he only scores 20 points, then you kind of see his defense. I mean, 19 rebounds, which is absurd. I mean, it's just nuts, along with a plus minus of 14. I'll say, though, the turnovers that Embiid and Harden kind of suffer because of the Brooklyn Nets defense, their adjustments in Game 2. I mean, he had Embiid with the 8 turnovers, which is too much for a center in him. Harden with 5 turnovers, yeah, he's kind of a facilitator, but he doesn't usually turn the ball over as much.
Well, first of all, the 76ers are lucky to win a game with 19 turnovers. That just won't get you a win against better teams that the 76ers will go up against. One thing I noticed looking at both scores, though, which is kind of funny, the whole 76ers starting lineup was in the positive plus minus, while the whole Nets starting lineup was in the negative plus minus. And then the Nets had one player in the positive plus minus off the bench, and Joe Harris. And the 76ers also have one plus minus off the bench in Jalen McDaniels. So that was kind of funny. I think the 76ers are going to have to do one of two things, depending on what team they go up against. If they go up against a team like the Celtics, who have solid interior depth or defense in Al Horford and Robert Williams, obviously Joel Embiid is the best or second best center in the league. He's still going to do his thing, but you're going to have to rely more on your role players to step up and your shooters. Like Maxi's gonna have to hit his shots. Harden's gonna have to hit his shots. Tobias Harris is gonna have to hit his shots. PJ Tucker, who was literally brought in to shoot in the corner, going 0 for 5 from the field, 0 for 4 on 3, won't cut it.
Honestly, I kind of disagree, though. As a Rockets fan, I mean, PJ Tucker doesn't need to shoot the ball. He just needs to grab boards and be that energy guy that he's always been. I don't really see. I mean, his scoring, yeah, if he scores like multiple threes, that's great, but it's not really his MO, you know?
I mean, yeah, I mean he's still a good shooter, but I'm just saying like because the Celtics could bring that double team, kind of what the Nets did in Game 1, and then the 76ers are just shooting their lights out. But it honestly kind of just it's kind of like a read and react thing based on other teams they go up against. If they kind of just focus on everyone's matchup, then obviously Embiid's going to dominate. But if they kind of if Embiid draws attention, then obviously they're gonna have to hit their shots. His supporting cast.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think why the next series potentially between the Celtics and Sixers is going to be so anticipated is because there's so many different adjustments and different ways that I think both teams are going to go at each other, especially defensively against Embiid. The Celtics this year have done a couple different things. They've done the double team stuff early in the early games in the season, but if you go back to that last game that they played at the end of March or at the beginning of April, where Embiid had 50-something points, the Celtics just played straight up against them, one-on-one defense, weren't sending any double teams or anything, and it was all Embiid. I mean, Embiid scored over half their points. And so it's going to be that sort of like, are the Celtics going to try and make the secondary people like Harden, like Maxey, like Harris beat them? And if you're a Sixers fan, the Harden demons of playoff Harden are gonna worry you in that situation because maybe he's getting those games out early with this game here and only getting 8 points. But are you as a Sixers fan confident somebody like Harden can take that? Or on the flip side, if the Celtics do, or whoever the Sixers play down the line, if they do go with that, let Embiid get his and not worry about the secondary people, how much of that load can Embiid handle?
With the next team that the Sixers face, I don't think that guarding Embiid, double teaming him every single possession is really going to work because Embiid's going to Embiid, and you got to guard the other players that support him, especially James Harden, because Harden's the facilitator. If you can't get Embiid up in the post or shoot lobs or get Embiid as a stretch out in the wings, then you can't really feed the ball to him. It's going to be Embiid scoring 40 points and the rest of the team scoring less than 10. But yeah, let's move on to Dubs and Kings. This was a wild one, I'll say. I predicted the Warriors to win game 2. As many, Brian, I think you also predicted the Warriors to win game 2. I think our guests as well did. And no, they are down 2-0 for the first time in the Curry, Thompson, Draymond Green ever. I think it's over for them, honestly. Like if Draymond did not get suspended for game 3 after stomping on Sabonis's sternum, I think, or chest or stomach area, then they may have had a chance to even the series up. But honestly, I think it's a gentleman's sweep or a 6-game series. The Warriors cannot win on the road. Yeah, I'm sure they'll steal a game at home, maybe 2, but if it goes to 7 games, the Kings will just win 4 games at home and move on, and that's that. The Kings this game around, they actually showed something that they didn't really show in the regular season or in game 1. And that's defense. They had probably one of the better possession by possession in terms of defensive rating in an NBA playoff game that an offensive-led team usually doesn't have.
The Kings, did what they had to do, defend home court. They know that the Warriors are also amazing at home on their home court. Kings, they have the highest offensive rating of all time for a reason. The two-headed duo, De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis, looked really good. Despite Fox having an off night from 3, shooting 2 for 10, he was still able to get 24 points. Sabonis was able to also score 24 points. And they even got some nice contributions from Kevin Huerter, Harrison Barnes, and then even off the bench, Malik Monk and Davion Mitchell had double digits. So if the Kings can get solid contributions like that, that's gonna really keep them going. But Jeremy, I kind of disagree with you on the gentleman sweep part. I think the Warriors definitely still have a chance. I mean, from a Kings perspective, you had to sweep when the first time in Sacramento, the first two games in Sacramento, because you don't want to split going back to Golden State where it can get ugly. Where the Warriors historically are dominant at home. The Warriors actually have won a road game in 27 straight playoff series, which is an NBA record. But so that streak's also in jeopardy. This thing with the Draymond thing, it's kind of interesting. What's kind of interesting about it is Sabonis is also out for Game 3 with a rib injury. And
is he out or is he questionable?
I thought he was out, and I think Sabonis is more. Sabonis is more important to Sacramento than what Draymond is to Golden State.
He's questionable. I'm looking right now. He's questionable to play Game 3, which is, I mean, if a player's questionable, they're probably playing.
He's playing
limited minutes. Yeah, he's playing.
He'll play.
He'll play. He'll definitely play. If you said that maybe in like 2017, 2018, I would have agreed with you. I don't think Draymond is kind of a shell of himself a little bit when it comes to his production 5 years ago. Sabonis is in his mid-20s. He's in the prime of his life. He's in the best shape of his life. And I really think that the Kings, what they have under Mike Brown, who was the assistant coach of the Warriors under Steve Kerr, might possibly be the next Golden State era. I really think that the Kings are kind of starting that era that the Golden State Warriors had back in 2013, and I really think that that the Warriors era might be over this year. I think that this is and with Draymond being suspended for Game 3, and say what you want about who did what, and if Draymond really stepped on his foot, I think there's some Draymond's interview when he's like, I'm not flexible enough to figure out where I need to find my foot for a landing. Like, I butchered this quote, but dude, he's an NBA basketball player. Yeah, he's not 2017, 2018 Defensive Player of the Year Draymond, but he's a basketball player. Okay, he can definitely figure out a way to land his foot accordingly and not put so much force as he did on Sabonis's stomach. And yeah, Sabonis, if he didn't grab his leg, this wouldn't have probably never happened. But yeah, he's suspended for Game 3, and the commissioner was there too, so that's probably why he got suspended.
Yeah, I mean, the Draymond thing, I mean, I don't know what, at this point in his career with everything that he's done, I don't know what he's expecting to happen, especially everything that happened afterwards. I mean, it is a playoff game, so I would like to not see him get suspended, but I wouldn't say I'm necessarily surprised that this happened. And like you mentioned, Jeremy, I mean, the commissioner was there, and he was watching Draymond go all villain in Sacramento, egging on the crowd. And so I think more for that. I think that's probably why he got suspended. But, more about this series, I picked the Warriors to win Game 2, but I'm not necessarily surprised that they lost. I mean, they're such a bad away team. Their defense as an away team is so bad. They can't get any stops.
Hold on. What's this picture here? So you got
the aftermath.
Oh wow! Our boy Zach, who's in the background, he's showing us some picture here. Like, you got Draymond, who's that's a pretty bad look. And you got like all these Kings fans who are just like, come on, really, come on.
So Sabonis sold it well. I mean, he like WWE level sell. He was doing.
I don't think he sold it. That's a lot of pain. That's a lot of pain.
Hurt. It definitely hurt in the moment, but he was on the ground for a while. I mean, hey, it probably hurt. He has a bruised sternum for a reason, but he was milking that for a while.
Brian, what's your take on this?
I don't know, man. I think the suspension, it's definitely soft. I think it was given to him just because of his history of his antics. I mean,
well, that's what they mentioned. I mean, the commissioner mentioned that because of his history, they're suspending him for Game 3. They literally said that.
Yeah, which I mean, I don't think is like the best way to handle a situation. I mean, look, Sabonis was the one that grabbed his ankle. All Draymond was trying to do was get off of him, and that's just the way his kind of like momentum was going, like trying to step up. I mean, we've seen plays where like people have grabbed the ankle before. There was literally and like everyone on social media was talking about it. Even Damian Lillard thought that there shouldn't have been a foul. My issue is with the transparency. Sabonis was the one that acted first. It's always the expression the second guy gets caught. Draymond ended up getting the technical in the flagrant 2, which ejected him. While Sabonis just got a technical. I think they either both should have been disqualified or ejected, or both just get technicals and move on. I kind of don't necessarily, because Sabonis definitely was like planning to do something. Like, why would you grab someone's ankle? Like, first of all, on the flip side, obviously you suspend Draymond because Sabonis got hurt. That's kind of where I think the NBA was thinking. But
I mean, yeah,
you could play the
Shams,
same
he
case in case Sabonis injured Draymond by grabbing his ankle.
Yeah, I mean, Shams also he cited that they probably won't suspend Draymond for Game 3, and then like 8 hours later they suspended him. I think it's because of the heat of the moment and the commissioner being there, and the fact that they got word on Sabonis' injury that led to the suspension. I think that's how it went. I honestly, like, the way I said my take, I don't necessarily agree or disagree. I'm just stating what happened and stating how Draymond Green's antics have had this history throughout his whole career. I mean, kicking Steven Adams in the balls, that's just that was actually. I mean, say what you want about that. Like, should he have gotten suspended for Game 5 against the Cavs and Warriors in 2016 because of that?
Everyone forgets this. He didn't get suspended for the act in
No,
2016.
it was
He
a
got
technical foul. What? Yeah, it was a technical foul.
He had way too many. He had too many technical fouls.
Yeah,
So he
but that
reached the
contributed
limit.
to it.
It did contribute to it. Yeah, I mean, listen, Draymond, like, at this point, like I said at the beginning, I don't think he should be surprised with any of the punishments that he receives anymore, just because he is at this point, for better or worse, public enemy number one in these sort of instances. I mean, Dylan Brooks tried to take the belt away from him, but I mean, Draymond, it's like every series, especially in the playoffs. As a Celtics fan, I remember last year he tried to pull down Jaylen Brown's pants like after a confrontation. So he does this in every series, and so it fires the Warriors up sometimes, and at other times it gets him suspended. So I don't think he should be surprised anymore. The Warriors definitely shouldn't be surprised anymore, because this has happened 2-3 times now where he's had to miss playoff games. Let's
move on to the Clips and Suns. But before, shout out to De'Aaron Fox for getting the NBA's first ever Clutch Player of the Year award, and also expect to see Draymond Green on Inside the NBA next week. Clips and Suns. I initially thought, like, before Game 1, I thought the Suns were going to take this series in maybe 6 games. It's looking that way, or maybe Clippers in 7. The Clippers kind of faltered on this game here. They initially had the lead going into the half, but then you got Devin Booker hitting shot after shot, and they were down by like 12 towards the end of the first half, and then they finally tied them 59-59 at the half, and then Durant caught fire, and their offense pretty much led the way and even the series. You got also good defense all across the board for the entire lineup. And look what Monty Williams did. He used more bench players. Look at that. Like, the last game, Williams only used 6 players, pretty much, with minutes of 20 plus. The other players was like an average of 5. Now you have Josh Okogie, you have Bismack Biyombo, you had Landry Shamet kind of evening out the minutes. You had T.J. Warren, bubble hero. T.J. Warren having 2 minutes. I mean, maybe that's not really impactful, but hey, he's using his bench players, more of him. So what's your take on this? How do you think the Suns will go heading into Game 3 in L.A.? And do you think the Clippers need Paul George, or they just need to sort of ride that wave and continue to have Kawhi Leonard lead the team?
To answer the first question, I think the Suns definitely needed this game. You don't want to be going down 2-0, going back to Los Angeles. And the Suns, Definitely need this game. We talked about last episode how Kevin Durant's never won a playoff game since hugging Steve Nash. That streak ended.
Oh,
Uh,
yep.
he had a nice game, 25, 6, and 5 with 2 blocks. Uh, Devin Booker had 38 points. Was even getting double teamed at one point. He still did his thing. The whole starting five looked good for the Suns. And they got, last time we talked about it, how the Suns didn't get really any bench contributions. They used their bench a little more, got a little deeper in the rotation. Bismack Biyombo had a nice little 6 and 5 game with an impressive 3 blocks off the bench. That's kind of what the Suns need if they want to make this a series. Obviously, they have a star-studded lineup in Paul, Booker, and Durant. The bench is still going to have to do their thing to help contribute and win a championship. That's for their goal. To answer the second question, I think the Clippers definitely do need Paul George more for their defensive abilities than their offensive abilities. Kawhi Leonard's Kawhi Leonard. He can go off for 30 pretty much anytime he wants to. Westbrook even had a great game, 28 points after that 3 for 19 game in game 1. Honestly, this kind of sucks that this is a first-round matchup. I think both teams could go to the conference finals. And you don't really need to double-team Devin Booker because then you'd have to worry about a Chris Paul or Kevin Durant or DeAndre Ayton. If you could avoid a double-team against a team like Phoenix, I think that would be well for you. Obviously, even with Paul George, you're still riding and counting on Kawhi. And he can take you, and the Clippers are going as far as Kawhi takes them.
Yeah, this series is puzzled me. Like, I mean, I'm super excited to be able to watch it, and it's such a good matchup. But between the first 2 games, I don't really know what to think. I mean, I definitely think it's going to go at least 6 or 7. What has really impressed me about the Clippers is first and foremost Kawhi. I mean, he looks like he's back to what he was doing in Toronto, and a couple years ago when he was healthy in LA, the way he looked then. I think there was a stat up on TNT last night that said he had scored 30 plus in like 4 straight playoff games now, and getting to his spots. Even defensively last night, he had this steal on Durant that was like, whoa, like, oh, Kawhi is back.
Oh, yeah. Remember that?
Yeah. But then again, there's still some things with the Clippers that, like, they have a lot of depth or a lot of guys that they can put in. But once they go through that first rotation of their bench, when they put in guys like, they try out Bones for 5 to 10 minutes and see if he has it. And if he doesn't has it, he sits for the rest of the game. And so they don't it's kind of like short leashes with all their guys. And so I'm interested to see for the rest of the series, if there's one of those bench guys or one of those secondary guys of Gordon, Highland, man, that really steps up and is like consistent for 2 to 3 games. Because, even with Westbrook had a great game this last game, but, the defense in game 1 was awesome, but his offensive stuff was kind of all over the place. So I just want to see if there's like one player along with Kawhi, because I don't think Paul George is going to be in this series. If there's one player along with Kawhi who can give them like 2 to 3 solid games, because that's what they're going to need. They can't deal with this fluctuation against the Suns. The Suns have too much firepower in their starting lineup, especially with Durant and Booker, where they can easily get 50 points combined. On this Clippers team, it's going to be hard to find 2 players on the Clippers that can get to 50 points a night along with Kawhi. So I'm interested to see what the rest of the series is, though, because for the Suns, their star players are playing way too many minutes for a first round series.
Absolutely.
Way too many minutes. And so that's like the biggest concern for them, for me.
Yeah. Durant played 45 minutes last game and only scored, he shot 15 shots. This is a better game, scoring a little bit, a minute less, but scoring was a lot better. 10 for 19, had more shots. I honestly think he should go to 25 shots because he's Kevin Durant. Along with Booker, I think they should share the load with that. If you go back to the Clippers box score, I'm looking at 2 players in particular, and that's Zubac and Batum. Batum, no business being in the starting lineup. No business. The thing is with Clippers, they don't really have, and I said this earlier, like last podcast episode, put in Robert Covington. I don't know why they're not putting in him. And if not, put in Powell. Go small a little bit. Have Powell be at the 4. Zubac needs to be more aggressive at the rim. He had 0 blocks, was only 2 for 7. If you're guarding DeAndre Ayton, yeah, he's a first overall pick, but I feel like he's a serviceable first overall pick. And what I mean by that is he's a stat patter on a rebuilding team. He's probably the best player if he was on the Pistons, the Hornets, the Spurs, any sort of mediocre to rebuilding team. But he's on the Suns, so you've got other guys who are more talented than he is and play better and score. With Ayton, Zubac, I'm pretty sure can be more aggressive on those possessions. I just really think that he can have a much better stat line than this. He needs to be more aggressive. Sub Batum out. Put in Powell or Covington, or hell, if you really want to go deeper, put in one of the Morris twins. Let's move on to the Knicks and Cavs. This will be pretty extensive. I know this. Me and Brian predicted the Knicks would lose game 2, and we were right, but not this bad. Not this bad. The Cavs woke up. They woke up this game. Darius Garland was exactly the all-star that we knew and played exactly the way he was supposed to play compared to game 1. Donovan Mitchell doesn't have to be the star player with this team like he was on the Utah Jazz. He's got assets. And because of that, you got the New York Knicks, who played way too overly aggressive in this game. You had Randall, who I saw from multiple possessions, to where there's a possession I saw particularly, I think it was in the second quarter, where he was at the top of the key and he was trying to get doubled as he dribbled to the basket. And you see Josh Hart waving his hands on the wing, wide open. Randall clearly didn't see that defensively, and he tried to go for the basket, and of course gets blocked and double teamed. Jalen Brunson, though, had his worst game in a few months. I think there was a stat I read that he was under 40% from the field for the first time in since I think Brian could allude to that. Was it like January or December?
January.
Yeah. So since then, his field goal percentage was over 40%. This is the first time he was under 40%. RJ Barrett, of course, needs to play better. He's kind of underwhelming as usual. The only player I'd probably highlight for this game, I mean, there's not really much. Quickly, didn't do too bad. I think they should play him more. And RJ Barrett needs to be on the bench.
The Knicks should be embarrassed. This was the worst game I've watched in months. The fact that RJ Barrett is in the starting lineup is mind-boggling to me. He's 22 years old. Yeah, he was the 3rd overall pick. He sucks. He can't shoot. He's a small forward or shooting guard / small forward that can't shoot. It's in his position name, and he can't do it. I just want to see him develop. I want to see him develop and finally show. Like, he averaged 19.5 points in the regular season, and I am telling you, it was the most effortful 19.5 points. Like, he had to work so hard to get them. To replace RJ Barrett, it should be Josh Hart. I know or you start quickly at the shooting guard and you move Quentin Grimes to the small forward. I know Josh Hart had a bad game too, with a plus-minus and -29. I'd say him or Mitchell Robinson's the best defender on the team. I'm not necessarily worried about that. I think where the Knicks lost the game also was in the rebound department. I wrote an article about it, including game 1 and then the 4 regular season games. The Knicks have out-rebounded them in every game. The Cavs finally out-rebounded the Knicks 43-36, excuse me. The Knicks, just like the Cavaliers, had 17 turnovers, but they're turning over the ball way too much. And another guy that just frustrates me to no end is Obi Toppin. Anytime he gets the ball at the three-point line, gives me headaches. He is just awful. I don't expect him to be on the team next year. I really don't. I think they package him in a trade, hopefully along with RJ Barrett. As angry as I was about this disappointing loss, I will try to find bright positives. They held Donovan Mitchell to under 20. We knew he's the X factor for the Cavs. I have to be happy with the fact that they split in Cleveland. Um, that was kind of worried about that. I mean, definitely, if the Knicks won Game 2, I would say I don't know. It still could go like deep, but I would have said the Knicks would have won the series. But now there's a little more question mark. I think the Knicks don't have necessarily that wiggle room anymore. Obviously, they're coming back to New York. Knicks got to defend the Garden. I wouldn't necessarily say Game 3 is a must win, but it's close to it. Um, touching back to Josh Hart's minus 29, he definitely wasn't 100%. I don't think he should have played. Um, Me personally.
Yeah, he was suffering from the injury too. So
Yeah, that sprained left ankle. Um, Randall also didn't look 100%. And that brings me to my next point. I am super pissed off at my head coach, Tom Thibodeau. Tom Thibodeau, why are you playing the starters when you're down like 20 or whatever it was with
he
3 minutes left
relapsed.
in the game?
Dude relapsed.
That Julius Randle play, first of
Flashbacks.
all, Randle, I understand why he called out Jared Allen, and it was unnecessary. But the problem with that play wasn't on Jared Allen. He was just trying to make a play on the ball. Randall just landed awkwardly on top of him before his hand kind of hit the stanchion and landed on his like back rib area. The problems with Tom Thibodeau, like Matt mentioned, like Jeremy mentioned, relapsed, flashbacks. When he was coaching the Bulls, Derrick Rose, youngest MVP of all time, tore his ACL because he stayed too long in an unnecessary game. If that happened to Randall, not only would the Knicks be cooked, like that series would be over if Randall got hurt, series ending, season ending, whatever. I think you take a deep dive at management. And you know what? Tom Thibodeau, he's kind of an older coach. He's not going to be coaching forever. Generally, teams are more fast-paced, offensive-oriented, both which Thibodeau isn't. I would question if he could seriously coach again. How can you trust a guy when you're getting blown out? Your starters got to come out. Either if you're blowing the team out or you're getting blown out. You can't risk injuries. The Knicks depend on Randall. He's an All-NBA candidate. He was an All-Star. He's the only player in the league that was top 10 in threes and rebounds. You cannot risk a guy like Julius Randle or Jalen Brunson getting hurt. I'm going to get too annoyed talking about the Knicks, so I'll get back to the Cavaliers. I really like the game that Karis LeVert had. I don't like the game that he had, but he had a good game. 24 points. Isaac Okoro, this big tough guy, had only 3 minutes and didn't score. I think he also had 3 fouls in that game, if I'm correct.
They realized that Isaac Okoro playing in game 1, his performance was going to continue into game 2. So they realized, okay, let's switch him out.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Unless it's for defense, I can't really. I'm a big Karis LeVert guy. Some say he hasn't been good since Brooklyn. That may or not be true. But I know LeVert's a bucket. He showed it in game 2.
Yeah.
I think he should be starting in the starting lineup over Okoro. I'm pretty sure he did for a good chunk of the regular season. But Darius Garland definitely was the best player on the court that game. I feel like with how much of the attention Donovan Mitchell gets, and then their twin towers and Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, I feel like Darius Garland gets underappreciated. Shot 60% from 3, 10 for 11 from the free throw line. Had a probably game high in plus 29, plus minus. Cavs definitely have the momentum here going into game 3. But for the Knicks, you get what you need. You get 3 days rest. Also, as a salty Knicks fan, I was even more annoyed that Robin Lopez had 2 hook shots at the end of the game.
2 Kareem shots.
Speak of another blast from the past.
Gosh. Yeah, dude. I remember that time in the Grizzlies. He was on the Grizzlies, and he like hit like 4 straight hook shots last year's playoffs, and it was like the broadcasters were calling him Kareem's comeback. Like this guy, he was perfecting the sky hook. It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, just to offer some like a breath of fresh air to Brian, I wouldn't be too worried about this game. I mean, the Knicks' goal in the first 2 games was just to steal 1, and to do it in game 1, honestly, I thought was more of it meant more. Unfortunately, Hart getting that injury in game 1, I think I think kind of took the wind out of the sails for the Knicks just a little bit in this one. They were kind of like, yeah, we've already gotten one. Let's try hard for the first half and try and throw a punch in the first half. And if we don't have it, we don't have it. But as I say that kind of doesn't square with what Tibbs was doing. So they have to get on the same page there. Because if it was kind of like let's just give our best shot in the first half, first 10 minutes and see what we got here, then Tibbs has to realize, let's pull these minutes back a little bit and just worry about game 3. I think the Knicks honestly have to win game 3. I think if the Cavs go in, take game 3 away from the Knicks, it puts a lot of pressure on them in game 4. But these teams are pretty evenly matched, man. They're going to throw haymakers at each other for the rest of this series. Health is going to be important. And like Brian and Jeremy touched on, Darius Garland is too good not to shoot at least 15 times a game. Like he can't. I honestly think he has to be the initiator over Mitchell every time. His decision making is so much better than Mitchell's. I know Mitchell had 13 assists this game, but if you look from last season to this season, Garland is so good in the pick and roll, so good at finding people. Let him initiate the offense, and Mitchell can give you that scoring late in the game, but let Garland drive the car for most of the game. I hope it goes 7. I really do. I think this will be a fun game 7.
Yeah, I do think that this series has just begun. Like it's gonna get even crazier. When Brian mentioned that Game 3 isn't really a must win, and then Matt mentioned it is a must win, I'm kind of on Matt's side. Knicks need to really set the tone for New York. Going home, MSG got rowdy New York fans, including Brian, who's going to see Game 4 on Sunday. And I think that's probably why. Like, if they lose Game 3, you want to see them win Game 4 because you're going to be there, right, Brian? Right? Am I
100%.
Right? Yeah. Obviously.
Quickly back to Game 2. I think the Knicks really lost the game in that putrid second quarter. I mean, they were outscored 34-17. That's ridiculous. But
there was this one possession I want to bring up. It was like they were tied 22 first quarter, and I forget who was dribbling the ball to the right side of the court quickly. I think was it quickly? Yeah, I think it was quickly. And so quickly was trying to do like a pick and roll with Mitchell Robinson, and because he was getting double teamed, he couldn't find an open shot because of the contested thing from the Cavs. So he's trying to pass the ball to Mitchell Robinson as they try to like get some space open for quickly, but they weren't able to do it, and they eventually turned it over. And I was like, that's probably when the Knicks faltered, because they had a decent first quarter start. And then after the first quarter, they just completely fell off. To bringing it back to Julius Randle before we move on to the upcoming Game 2s, that injury scare is very reminiscent of his first game in the NBA when he broke his leg. That type of physicality in the first play of I think 2014 when he broke his leg, that sort of body movement was very, very close to that injury. And for Tibbs to have to go through that again and to continuously make that wrong decision, especially if you're a star player on the team that's needed, like what is going through his mind, honestly? Like, it's just whenever his team is in the lead or like really close to winning, sort of neck and neck, he's a good coach. I want to say that, because he's able to distribute minutes very accordingly with all of his star players in the rotation. But whenever he's down by 20 or up by 20, he still has his star players playing with like 2 minutes left on the clock in the fourth quarter. He really like dodged the bullet. I mean, Randle, he could have broken something really significant, which would have completely changed the trajectory of the whole series, and the Cavs probably would have won handily this series. But Game 3, I think, is a must-win. I really think they need to set the tone for New York. Hopefully Josh Hart is healthier so that the Knicks can have that defensive anchor and back in on the bench. And yeah, trade R.J. Barrett. What's his full name, Brian, by the way?
Rowan Alexander. All right. Oh, yeah, I'm never calling him RJ again.
You said
Rowan
RJ.
Alexander Barrett.
Okay, yeah, because you mentioned you never call him R.J. Barrett ever again. But
yeah, Rowan Alexander.
Predictions for upcoming games, Game 2. So right now we have the Lakers and Grizzlies set to play later today as the first game. Game 2. What do you guys think? Lakers or Grizzlies? You think the Lakers will go 2-0, or do you think the Grizzlies will even the series?
I think the Lakers win. I think the Grizzlies it's a crushing blow that they're without Steven Adams and Brandon Clark. And especially with John Morant being a game-time decision. I know the Grizzlies had that 11-game win streak. I believe Eric mentioned last episode when they were without John Morant. But I really do think they'll need a guy like John Morant. I think the Lakers are just playing their best brand of basketball ever since the trade deadline. Austin Reeves has really stepped up this season. This postseason, excuse me.
And the season. You can count this season too.
Yeah, he's averaging 13 points per game. I'm assuming that's in the playoffs. Or was it in the regular season? Guys like Jared Vanderbilt, all these guys they got from the deadline. Rui Hachimura. Oh, regular season. Sorry. Austin Reeves averaging 13 in the regular season. Getting these guys like Jared Vanderbilt, Roy Hachimura. This new look Lakers team is definitely here to play. And I was kind of hating on them in the beginning because I'm not a big LeBron guy. But they actually are poised to go on a championship run. I don't know if they'll get that far, but they definitely could. I think this is definitely a 7-2 upset for sure.
Yeah, I mean, everything's pointed to the Lakers, right, to win this game, especially with Morant's injury. I did the Grizzlies midseason report this year for the page, and the one thing that did stick out was when Morant doesn't play, and Brian just mentioned this. When Morant doesn't play, they do have just like this weird success without him. And so if there is like one thing kind of stopping me from backing the Lakers full on in this game is, the Grizzlies do have this sort of like rise to the occasion thing, backs against the wall. That's like these last couple of years when their guys are out. So if there is any team that is like perfectly suited to upset something like this or surprise what we're all thinking here, it is probably this Grizzlies team. That being said, usually they have some of their like more of a full team when Morant is out, when they've played without him. No Steven Adams again, no Brandon Clark. That's huge, especially against the Lakers. So I'll probably still side with the Lakers here. It could get really close. I think this Grizzlies team is feisty, like in a aggro, aggressive way. So you could see some Dillon Brooks antics tonight. I'll just like that's like my main prediction for this game is you might see Brooks doing some Draymond stuff, causing a ruckus here. But yeah, this does seem like a Lakers victory, a Lakers 4-1. If Morant's not healthy, this is like Lakers 4-1, Lakers 4-2, easy.
I don't know. I think I disagree with both of y'all. I picked the Grizzlies to win the NBA Finals early on this season.
I picked them. They're my finals pick.
Yeah. But, with the whole John Morant off the court issue, Brandon Clark, Achilles tear, Steven Adams injury, and then John Morant, his hand issue, he's doubtful for Game 2. Look, you mentioned that they are surprisingly good without John Morant. With that being said, I just feel like Dillon Brooks is just gonna make some drama happen. He's gonna try to get like these. He's gonna try to get under these players, these Lakers' skin, and try to just make them angry and try to make it look like, oh, this incident happened because he did it and he needs to be suspended or ejected or what have you. And it's still Game 2, y'all. Like yeah. I don't think that the Lakers have like a huge edge right now. I don't. The Grizzlies play really well without John Morant.
Triple J looked awesome last game too, offensively. He had like 31 or something. So
Dillon Brooks also might impact the Grizzlies in a negative way if he goes too far. Like if he pulls something farther than Draymond, which he has, GP2's injury last year against the Warriors. If Dillon Brooks holds his own, uses his antics in the way that makes the Grizzlies look good, then maybe they have sort of like a dramatic edge on that. I still pick the Grizzlies in 6. I'm still sticking to my guns. I'm not going to change. The reason why is because I still worry about Anthony Davis. on the Lakers. He's glass. Yeah, he had like a scare the last game when he couldn't feel his arm. Next thing you know, it could be his ankle. Could be, I don't know, a concussion. Could be a heel. Could be a knee issue. Anything. So I did say last podcast that I hope that he gets injured. I don't. I don't. But I just worry about their injury history. If LeBron and AD can't play well and they're injured, Lakers are toast. LeBron is old. Anthony Davis is injury prone. So there. That's why I have the Grizzlies still winning this series in 6. So, and also winning this game 2. All right, let's move on to the Nuggets and Timberwolves. Not really much to say about game 2. Honestly, I mean, the Nuggets are really overmatching the Timberwolves at this point. It's not really much of a discussion whether or not the Nuggets falter or the Wolves make it a series. I got really nothing else to say. Like, after my take right now, y'all can do your takes and we can just move on. I got the Nuggets in 4. Yeah. The Wolves really just screwed the pooch whenever they traded for Rudy Gobert. All those picks, all those key players. Wait, Zach, $33 for playoff tickets? What?
That's bad.
What? Exactly. Look, they'll all be Nuggets fans knowing that it'll all be blowouts. That's why this series is probably the most unanticipated, uninteresting.
Is this on NBA TV?
Probably.
It's on TNT.
That is sad. I know Barkley will be sleeping. He'll be complaining.
They should just send him home.
They really should send Barkley home for this game.
Yeah. I agree, Jeremy. This only way for the Timberwolves, in my opinion, or to even get a game is like a big Anthony Edwards performance. That's like what they need. Yeah. So if they're not getting that, this is a sweep.
Yeah, and I mean, Barkley might be sleeping in this game. It's going to be boring, just like game 1 with that 29-point W. He also still is recovering from beating Kenny the no more Jet Smith in a race from that TNT halftime last game.
Too bad hips.
Yeah, but the $33 playoff tickets is insane. I know the Nets tickets were going for like $54 or something. Literally, it was cheaper. So I'm going to the Knicks game 4. It was cheaper for me to fly out to Cleveland and go to a game there than the money I spent for my game 4 ticket. But back to what matters for the NBA playoffs, Nuggets in 4. Game 2 is going to be exactly like game 1. Nuggets winning convincingly. Yeah. That's all I got.
This is the dress rehearsal for their capability of actually making it, of actually proving to the NBA that they are finals contenders.
Yeah, if they don't sweep, like, if
they don't sweep the series, then I don't think they're finals contenders, and I never thought they were ever finals contenders to begin with. So. Yeah, let's move on. Let's move on to the Bucks and Heat. Is Giannis still out, or is he going to be back for game 2?
I think they moved him to questionable. I thought they moved him up.
Okay, so he's going to be playing game 2. Gotcha. So, doubtful still. Doubtful. So, still doubtful. Yeah, he might get limited minutes, or he might not play at all. This isn't really that of a crushing blow for the Bucks. The Miami Heat do play small, but they lost Tyler Hero for the series. He's out with a broken hand. So that's a huge blow to the Miami Heat. Even though they won Game 1, they stole Game 1 in Milwaukee. I don't really see them winning another game. I really don't. I think that the Bucks kind of lost steam because Giannis came out with that injury. And then, of course, if they use Duncan Robinson, then it's all over for the Heat.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I agree. The Bucks are down 1-0, but I still think they can afford to sit Giannis. I think the Bucks are the better team. I don't trust who's going to step up for Miami, whether it's Duncan Robinson taking his role in the starting lineup. I mean, yeah, Butler's great, and he plays his best basketball in April when it matters. But I just think it would take a lot for Miami to come back and beat Milwaukee without Tyler Hero, because Hero's perfect for that Heat system. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see. I think for the Bucks, Drew Holiday and Bobby Portis need to keep doing what they're doing, just be that good supporting cast. I'm pretty sure Drew Holiday and Bobby both had good game ones as well. For Miami, Kyle Lowry looks like a lost cause.
He's 38 right now, right? I think he's like 38.
Yeah, he can go back to his retirement home. That we talked about in last episode.
Why is this one on NBA TV?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make any sense. Switch it with the Wolves and Nuggets. Like, this is a much more important game.
I mean, probably with no Giannis, no Tyler Hero. That's my guess.
Yeah.
Kyle Lowry is the oldest 37, I think, in the history of the league.
He's so old, you could be 38. Like, that's Kyle Lowry.
Like, when players when they get subbed out and it's just 5 minutes for them to get ice packs and all of that stuff on their legs, like, it's time to go. It's time to retire.
Like, no disrespect to Kyle Lowry. Love him. NBA champion,
hey,
2019. But, this was, him being a starting point guard and on a team that has really no true superstar. Jimmy Butler is a star, an all-star. He's not a superstar. They really don't have any sort of advantage against the Bucks, even with Giannis out. The Bucks have, Holiday. They have Brook Lopez, finalist of the Defensive Player of the Year. I know it went to Jaren Jackson Jr., but he's still a good defensive player. Bobby Portis as a sixth man, he can possibly slide into the center role, and they'll just go small. They also have really good three-point specialists and stuff, so I really don't think that this is an issue for the Bucks. If the Bucks go down 2-0, I'm not concerned for the Bucks. I'm not. They'll have Giannis back, going to Miami. They'll probably, win the next 4 games.
See, I think this is the only time I'm going to agree with you guys or disagree with you guys all podcast. I'm kind of concerned for the Bucks. Just like, like 50% concerned, honestly. If this Heat team, for one, is like my arch nemesis. They have this zombie quality to them where they like just will kick it into gear when it looks like they're dead. And right after Hero went down, Gabe Vincent comes out firing 3-pointers like he hasn't, been bad all season. It's weird, this Heat team. So I'm kind of worried for the Bucks just at how, like, are they ready for this game? Because Miami comes out and is always like bull in a china shop, always ready to rip your throat out. Is Milwaukee, especially if they don't have Giannis, are they ready to bring that energy? Giannis is usually the most aggro guy on the court, and usually drives that energy for the Bucks. So it's going to be interesting to see who steps up for that. If he's out, it'll probably be Portis because he's a maniac as well. But does he have that? It's one thing to be a maniac, and then there's one thing to have Giannis's skills and kind of have that aggressiveness as well. So is Miami going to be afraid at all of the secondary options, especially Middleton coming back from the knee injury? Is he ready to do that workload? It's only been 1 game since he's off his minutes restriction. So if he has to carry that load without Giannis, is he ready for that? That's like the main concerns for me. I know Miami is like a pretty bad offensive team. I think they were worse in the league this year offensively. So it's not, is Miami going to score 122 again, especially without Hero? Probably not. And even if they do, it's going to be a struggle to get there. But without Giannis and with kind of a slow paced game, I like Miami's chances. They really, they only have to win 3 more. They can have 3 bad games here and kick it to 7. If they really need to. So that's why I'm moving this one into like my antenna's up on this series. I'm way more concerned for Milwaukee here than I am than I was for like Memphis. I was kind of concerned for Memphis. Milwaukee is way past that in this series for me.
I feel like Skip Bayless on these predictions right now. Are we able to have like a video to bless the Heat and win this game with Nickelback playing in the background? Since is that possible, Zach? I don't know, but yeah, that's pretty much it for the upcoming games and Game 2 recaps for the NBA playoffs. We're going to conclude this right here. We're going to move on to another segment. If you want to stick around, please do. We're going to play another game of the game grid that Brian has brought. By the way, if you enjoyed this podcast, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment on our feedback as well. And yeah, what are your predictions? Let us know.